We're recording.
Yeah, I see that.
Is this the way we want to start it, Elijah?
Welcome back to the Boston Barristers. I'm here with attorney Matthew Peterson, and we're doing a quick Christmas episode to help everyone stay safe during the Christmas season. First off, Matthew, for people traveling or attending parties this season, can you explain what actually constitutes an OUI or DUI in Massachusetts?
Well, thanks for having me on, Elijah. I feel like it's been overdue for us to be on a podcast. You know, if I talk to you more than I talk to my wife and my children. It's like, it's great for us to finally get on one of these together and record one of these for the world. So as far as your question, yeah, we call them OUIs in Massachusetts, operating under the influence instead of driving under the influence. But basically the elements are, you have to be driving. In other words, operating a car. But this can include being parked on the side of the road with the car on, things like that. Complicated definition. You have to be under the influence. So you have to have enough alcohol in you to prevent or to somehow inhibit your ability to safely operate a car. Affected in some way. It has to be a public way. Public way means basically any place other than a driveway usually. Usually some place is maintained by the local municipality or things like that. Sometimes even like parking lots can count for that purpose. So those are the basic elements of an OUI. Now, to the under the influence part gets a little bit more complicated when you look at, is the person under the influence or are they above the legal limit, which is 0.08 blood alcohol level. In this area during this time of year, it's one of those times where a lot of the police know that people are out partying, know that people are out drinking and driving. So they'll step up enforcement, not only in terms of having more patrols, but sometimes in having roadblocks and things like that out there to catch people. So we've had plenty of cases where, you know, they have a roadblock and I've got to go in right after Christmas or right after New Year's, 4th of July, things like that. Something they like to do. And
let's say when you're driving home from a Christmas party and you see these blue lights, what should people do when they get pulled over?
So the biggest thing is you got to stay safe. You got to let the officer know, like immediately try to pull over, put your turn signal on. If you don't feel safe stopping where you are, you aren't sure. So a lot of times if you see a car and you're like, I'm not sure if that's really a police officer. Sometimes you can, call 911 or call the local dispatch for the police department and say, hey, there's somebody behind me. I don't know whether it's an actual police officer. Or you always have the right to pull over in a well-lit place. So go to a gas station, something like that. But usually, yeah, you want to put on your turn signal. If you're on the side of the highway, pull over immediately and make sure that the officer can see your hands. Don't try to do any movements like that, to get your driver's license or your registration, anything like that immediately. Just wait till the officer instructs you. But try to stay calm. Try to obey the officer's instructions, things like that.
If you make any unnecessary movement, would it really constitute someone fighting back to the police officer?
Not necessarily, but the traffic stop is one of the most dangerous things that can happen in general. I know we're just talking about OUIs here, but a traffic stop, officers are on heightened awareness. They don't know what kind of car they're pulling up to. It's also dangerous for you. Sometimes if you make a sudden movement, there's an officer there with a gun. I'm not trying to scare people, but just keep those things in mind when you see the blue lights behind you, that this officer has seen plenty of videos of people in his job getting hurt in these situations. So try to show the officer that you are not going to be a problem to him. Make sure they know where your hands are. Don't make any sudden movements.
Yeah, and we talked about guns earlier, and as our viewers know, we are a law firm that specializes in firearms law. And it got me thinking, do you think that having a gun at this time, even though it's for self-defense, it could be the greatest liability when you're at a traffic stop in Massachusetts?
It could be. I mean, a lot of times an officer, if they run your plate, they can immediately see things like if you have a warrant, if you have a suspended driver's license, and if you have a firearms license. So sometimes they'll be on extra awareness of that. So you want to, if you get pulled over and you have a license to carry, tell them I'm carrying, it's on my left hip. Make sure that they know, or wherever it is, just make sure that they know so that everyone can be safe in that situation.
Have you seen clients having problems with the authorities who are licensed gun owners but had a traffic stop and things happened? It got worse.
So I haven't seen that many licensed gun owners in that situation. I mean, you always have to worry about improper storage. So if you have a gun in your car, it either has to be in your immediate control in a locked container or in a trigger lock, according to Massachusetts law. Now, if you want to talk about whether that's constitutional or not, we can talk about that in court. Let me argue about that in court. Don't argue with the officer on the side of the road, and don't try to do it Constitution when you're in this situation. But that's the only real situation that I've seen. I mean, there are people from out of state, especially, who coming through don't, like I represented a client one time, and we're getting far off topic of OUIs here, but I represented a client one time who was from out of state, and in the state where he was from, you're allowed to have a gun as long as it's in your center console, which is like, I don't understand why that's the rule. But he got in a wreck, and he thought he was doing the right thing by going up to the officer and saying, "Oh, by the way, I have a gun in my center console." Well, he didn't have a license in Massachusetts. He ended up facing the possibility of 18 months in jail based on that. So, obviously you want to be smart about it, and you still have the right to not incriminate yourself. I mean, yeah, be smart about it. I mean, if you don't have a license, don't go out there and confess to any crimes or anything like that. You want to make sure you're safe, but you also want to make sure you're smart about it.
Yeah, I'm just feeling that if you're a licensed gun owner in Massachusetts, and it just so happened that you went on partying these holidays and you drove, it has severe consequences, much more that you're a licensed gun owner. And I don't know what's the mandatory minimum.
So there's actually a separate crime for possession of a firearm while intoxicated.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are, and it's the same standard, I actually tried one of these cases last December. If you are intoxicated, and it's the same standard as under the influence, anything that would impair your ability to safely operate a motor vehicle or safely possess a gun, then that's a separate crime. And that means that you could be looking at the suspension of your LTC. And so the best advice is, hey, if you're going out drinking, leave your gun at home. It's not gonna help you.
All right. So what about failed sobriety tests?
So field sobriety tests or they're sometimes called roadside assessments, are basically where the officer will make you walk in a line, stand on one foot, recite the alphabet backwards. I mean, there are plenty of different ones. Sometimes they'll make you recite the alphabet backwards from a certain point to a certain point. But the thing in Massachusetts is that you have the right to refuse it. You have the right to say, no, I don't want to do it. And that cannot be held against you in court. So if you refuse the field sobriety test and say, no, I'm not going to do it, then the judge can't later on, or the jury can't even know that you refused it, right? So they can't say, oh, well, you refused it, so he must be hiding something. The same thing with breathalyzer. If you refuse the breathalyzer, yeah, you're facing a license suspension, but that can't be used against you in court later on. So they can't later on at your trial say, he refused the breathalyzer, so he must be guilty, that sort of thing. So those are important things to consider. Always try to be, with OUIs, there's almost every police department now has body cams. A lot of the state police, which does a lot of the OUI stops around the state, they all have body cams, dash cams, all of that. If you're drunk, you're not going to be able to hide from it. A lot of times it's going to show on that body-worn camera. But you do have the right to refuse a breathalyzer. You do have the right to refuse a field sobriety test. And don't pick up more charges by trying to fight with the officers or anything like that. A friend of mine said on Facebook that the cost of an Uber to go from Boston to Orlando is cheaper than his first-time OUI fee. If you go out to a party and you don't want to drink, but you end up drinking and you have your car there, it is 100 times cheaper to get an Uber back to your house and then Uber to your car the next morning. Whatever they're going to charge you for parking or anything like that. So if you're just even looking at the money, what makes more sense monetarily, it makes more sense to just get a ride with somebody else. Pay for that taxi, pay for the Uber, and deal with the rest of it later on. And that's not even considering the fact that if you get behind a wheel and when you're drunk, you could kill somebody, you could kill yourself, you could kill your passenger. You could have a lot of devastating consequences. So just be safe. If you are thinking about driving after you've been drinking, just get in an Uber or a Lyft or whatever your preferred thing is.
Speaking about your experiences, you've been doing this for years. I'm sure you're not 40 yet, but I know you've been doing this for years, Matthew. What were some of your most memorable Christmas cases? Without names, of course.
So I haven't really had any Christmas cases. Like I've never represented, Santa Claus who got arrested or anything like that.
How about Rudolph?
Last Christmas, we had a client come in who had a charge that was pending, and then they ended up getting in trouble again, like after they came in and talked to us and didn't end up hiring us, but then they hired us for the next case. We spent the longest time trying to coordinate between these two counties. Like one county ordered him to surrender his passport in one court, and then the other court ordered him to surrender his passport. But obviously he couldn't do it in both courts. So we kept trying to tell the second court, hey, the first court has his passport. And they're like, we don't care, we need it until he can get released. So we spent all this time in jail because he couldn't do what was impossible, which is turn over the passport that was already in the custody of another court. Mm-hmm. So that I remember last year, this time between Christmas and New Year's, we spent all of this time on that issue. Probably my most memorable Christmas case. It's not Santa Claus, but obviously we spent a lot of time trying to deal with that. We ended up having to go in front of a superior court judge who finally said, okay, I'm going to take that restriction off and let him out of jail.
I remember it was December last year. He called in and asked for you specifically. And he just told me, hey, I want Matthew. Money is not an issue. I want to meet him at the Salem office. And I guess that's where it all began, right? You met him at the Salem office at December 26th?
It was somewhere around there. I don't remember whether it was right before Christmas or right after Christmas, but I remember like we literally went to court every day between Christmas and New Year's. Like we went to the first court and said, hey, by the way, there's this other issue. Can you resolve this? And the first court was like, no. And then we went to the second court and said, hey, this other court has his passport. Can you resolve this? And they said no. And then we ended up having to go to the superior court right after that. But I don't remember exactly when it was. I guess I'd have to look back on my calendar.
But even then, while you were handling his case, I know that you were handling, I think, like 5 to 6 cases per day. To our viewers, I'm the one handling Matthew's calendar at that time. And yeah, I just wanted to give the floor to you, Matthew. What can you say to all of our viewers, all of our previous clients and all of our present clients who are currently watching this podcast?
So yeah, I think that this time of year, people don't come to us when things are going good, right? Like people come to us when they've been charged with a crime, when they've had their gun rights taken away, when they're going through a divorce, when they're trying to get immigration status. And it's tough this time of year because it's not where you want to be. Obviously, you don't want to be going through this sort of thing. Obviously, it can be the worst time in your life. So I always try to tell my clients, like, it's going to get better. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. Try to take some solace in this time of year. Try to take some peace in this time of year. Courts are slowing down. Courts are closed. Try to focus on your family. Focus on what's going good in your life. Take some time, even if that's just taking some time to yourself, and refocus on that. And we'll deal with the rest after January 1st. So everyone, this Christmas and holiday season, just be safe, be smart, stay legal out there. Don't drink and drive is the best thing. Don't drink and drive. Don't bring your gun in your car when you're drinking and driving, and be safe out there. Realize that everyone has a job to do. Everyone wants to get home to their families this time of year. But the biggest thing is you definitely want to pay for the $50, $100 Uber rather than paying me to represent you in an OUI or much worse.
All right, and that wraps our Christmas episode. Stay safe, stay smart, and enjoy the holidays.